Thank you. It should automatically just pop up as a file on your computer once you end the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, so we're at 7:04. If anyone else joins, that's great. But welcome everyone to our Try It Tuesday on our Nourish or Nutrition Week. Thanks for joining us tonight. We have a pretty cool presentation on mindless eating. But before we get started, I just want to let everyone know that we are recording this tonight, just in case you do want to rewatch, or for those who were unable to make this live session. We will leave some time at the end, just as an FYI, for some Q&A for Sherri in case there are any questions that were unanswered for you tonight. If you're not comfortable unmuting your line and speaking out loud to the group, feel free to type any questions in the chat and we will do our best to answer those at the very end. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sherri. She is a wife and mother of two sons, 15 and 12, who attend Governor Mifflin. She has worked as an RN for 16 years in the emergency room and oncology departments at Pottstown Hospital. And she is currently pursuing her education to become a nurse practitioner. Nutrition and physical activity are just a few of her passions that have come to the forefront of her health advocacy efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic. So without further ado, Sherri, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you and BJ for inviting me to do this. I appreciate that you guys gave me the opportunity to do it as an informal home presentation, because I find that a lot of the presentations on changing our physical activity or our eating habits during this pandemic tend to be formal office interviews or institutional settings, and it's hard for people to apply what's being said to their in-home situations, which a lot of people are unfortunately stuck to right now with the change in working from home and being educated at home. And so I think my passion in this kind of started in my conversations with my friends who are working from home, and from my own personal experience with my children being at home all day schooling while I am being a nurse and not able to be home and regulating what's going on with their schedules. So it became, the conversations were the weight gain and the lack of physical activity, the feelings of seclusion. And I just realized very quickly that the pandemic has really changed people's routines. And unfortunately, we went from lunch breaks and lunch boxes to an all-day, all-you-can-eat buffet at the home convenience of our kitchens. And so I think, I kind of geared this toward mindful eating in a sense that we're in a situation where we now need to think about when we are eating and why we are eating, whereas before in a structured environment, those boundaries were set for us and we didn't really need to think about them. So all that said, I would like to, I know that I'm a nurse and that's probably why I was invited to do this talk, but I'd like to step out of the realm of ivory tower nursing, nutrition education, as I've seen formal presentations kind of be done. And I would like to be a mom and a friend in this. So I'll make you laugh here. So here's my nursing, but here's my mom approach to this whole thing, because I want to keep this real. So my goal for us tonight is to just basically step away and raise an awareness of what we're eating and why we're eating it. I'm not talking looking at labels, counting calories, weighing things on Weight Watcher scales. I'm not going there. I'm just talking very simple awareness steps and tricks that may make small differences and small steps as we start to phase ourselves out of seclusion and back into normalcy, as we all hope and pray that we do. So all of that, I'm going to switch over to my presentation. We're going to try to keep this not boring, but I'm going to share my screen with you here. And let me know if it is popping up for you. Are you able to see that?
Yeah, we can see it. If you could just make it bigger, There we go. That's great.
Okay, so we're entering now into the non-judgment zone. Okay, so this isn't made to make anyone feel guilty or shamed. This is just to be honest and real. So there's no judgment here. But I think mindless eating is basically a pandemic within the pandemic. I think there's a lot of pandemics within this pandemic, but this is one of them that we're going to touch on. So how exactly did we get here? I think we got here because we're working and schooling from home. I think we're doing a lot more screen time than we used to be doing. I think we're bored. I think people are stressed for all the known reasons. And I think, like I said before, food is now at our disposal. People who are in home all day are no longer structured with eating routines. And so I think a kind of fun way to look at this is to say, okay, if we're mindless eating, what mindless eater am I? What type of mindless eater am I? So one of the mindless eaters is the meal stuffer. So these are the kind of people that either only eat at their meals, they're not snacking in between, or when they sit down at a meal, they eat until they're stuffed, or they justify having seconds as having a healthy appetite, or they are the type of people who you always clean your plate. You're told as a child that, you don't leave the dinner table until you clean your plate. So this has become, kind of just what's ingrained in them. Here's an example. My husband would be the burger on the left and I would be the one on the right. The snack grazer is basically the people who are all about, they're about convenience. Whatever is there and readily available. I know this is my children, and they're going to eat. If it's there, you're going to try it. Or they're the kind of people that rarely pass up a candy dish. If it's sitting on the office desk, they're going to take one as they go. Some people snack just out of a nervous habit. It's something to fill their nervous energy, or they're bored, so they're eating because there's really nothing else to do. I find with my kids, a big thing is snacking during screen time. I often will come in and they're sitting on their phones or on their gaming computer or whatever they do with their screen time, and they're just aimlessly, eating out of a bag or grazing off of something on their plate, which we'll talk about that too. Or they're snacking while they're multitasking. You're trying to, you're cleaning, you're on the phone, you're just kind of grazing while you're doing those things. This is just kind of a what you look like when you're mindlessly snacking. But the third type is the restaurant indulger. So some of these people say that they're out there helping their local restaurants to stay in business. They feel a need more than ever to go and patronize these businesses. Curbside and DoorDash has made it extremely easy to eat out. You don't even need to dress up and go out in public anymore. You can just do it from your phone and it's at your doorstep, which has made it very convenient. Again, we're a society of convenience. You enjoy a variety of options. I know in my family, we all have different preferences for what to eat. And so sometimes avoiding the whole grumble of what's going to be on the dinner table, it's just easier to go out and let people pick what they want. Or again, sit from home and let everybody pick what they want off the restaurant menu and have it delivered. Or you think that eating out is a treat. And so sometimes you just tend to over-treat yourself because it is work to prep and prepare for meals and do that at home. One of the interesting things, this is an old Weight Watcher tip, is that the average dinner plate size, so in Europe it's 9 inches, in the United States, or North America, I should say, it's 11 inches. And in North American restaurants, especially United States restaurants, it's 13 inches. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal because it gives you a wider opportunity to fill your plate. And then that helps the plate cleaners or the people just eating until they are stuffed to eat those types of proportions instead of scaling it down. We'll go into the next phase. This is the emotional eater. These people eat when they're sad or they eat when they're nervous to comfort them as a companion. A lot of what I find is that emotional eating has been used as a reward. I found this with my own kids, and that my youngest son, loves sweets and desserts and those sorts of things. So we have often rewarded him with special treats. If you finish your homework by this time, you can have this piece of candy. Or if you clean your bedroom, you can come down and have a brownie sundae. And it's interesting why we do that, but we do that. So we use food as a reward or an encourager. And some people just have cravings for junk food and sugary snacks. And one of the things we find is that the more that you fulfill your cravings, this is in any kind of eating, the more you want that then. So you'll hear people speak of their diets where they cut out all kinds of sugar, and then the craving for sugar completely goes away. Or they cut out soda, and after a couple weeks, the cravings for soda completely go away. So that there's a true connection there too. So I think we need to start looking again as food as a fuel for our bodies. It's not really a therapy. And we use it a lot in society for celebrations and for social events. And so it becomes part of that connected nature, and that's okay too. But I think as we start to change how we, think about food, and use it more for what and why are we eating, it'll just start to change that mindset a little bit. So I think, as we transition from this mindless perception of eating and into a more mindful approach, like I said, I don't want it to be too heavy that you are focusing on calorie content, protein content, sugar content. Those things are broad things to look at, definitely. But it's just more an understanding why we're doing what we're doing. It's more a focus on the behavior and not necessarily the nutritional detailed education of what is in what we're eating. So I want to emphasize that this is more about being reflective of a behavior change and a motive change more than getting into the nitty-gritty of nutritional content. So for the people who are the meal stuffers, some of the things that you can do are to use smaller plates, like was represented on America's larger plate. I kind of did this as a little project with my family the other night at dinner. We have our usual dinner plate, and I scaled us down to these more fancy plates that I have in the china cabinet that are smaller. And my 15-year-old and my husband did kind of think about the fact that they were going back for seconds because their plate was smaller. So it did kind of make them realize I'm not really full, and why aren't I? And just what they're used to is their proportion sizes. So I think that's a really helpful tip. It seems insignificant, but it really is. And the other thing to do is it's okay to pre-plate food, and it's okay to leave food on your plate. This is something that I'll also touch on about the restaurant eating out, but restaurants are big on giving you think you're getting a better value by paying $18 for a dinner because it's a large portion of fries and whatever the protein is, but it's okay to not eat everything on your plate and save some of it for later. And when we're home, I know I'm very guilty of this. There's a rule that they want you to adopt that's called the half plate rule. And basically it's that when you are filling your plate of what size you decide, you should try to really make half of your plate vegetables. My kids balked at this really badly, but it does kind of make you fill yourself more on nutritional things than maybe the complex carbs like the potatoes or the other fattening things that we put on there. So for the snack grazers out there, some of the tips are to avoid purchasing the large quantities of foods that, especially things that are bulk foods. I'm a Costco goer. I love my Costco. We tend to get these large bags of, pretzels and chips and whatever it may be. But what I was finding with my situation with my kids is that I was coming home and these huge bags of snacks were gone in a day or two. And I was like, how in the heck is this happening? And part of it is the connection to the screen time. They're just endlessly eating out of the bag while they're screen timing. And so we put an awareness on their phone that you can actually track your screen time. People with iPhones, you can do it. And at the end of the night, we kind of made it a game of like who could have the least screen time in the day. And so we would all like flip our phones on, and just the awareness of how much time you're really spending on screen time on your phone, and then realizing that you're snacking while you're on your phone, it kind of makes you realize your portion control for that alone is out of, context. So I would say to never eat directly from the big bag. You have to, I would come home and I would portion them into the small sandwich baggies. And then I watched a series on TV that talked about the pollution of plastic bags and the animals and the fish. And then I felt guilty about all that too, with the excess of snack bags. So I kind of went into this rule in our house, which I'll show you at the end. We have these snack cups. And so you're not in this house, you're not supposed to ever eat out of the bag. It's kind of like chugging the milk or iced tea directly out of the gallon. It's just gross at this point. So we now, not only because they don't always wash their hands when they're reaching into the bag, which is a whole nother topic, but to make them portion out their snack into the snack bowl. And when the bowl is empty, you're done. You move on. And it's kind of an awareness that you don't have to think about the serving size of things, which, again, I'll show you at the end of this, but these bags have serving sizes on them, like Tostitos, I think it's like 13 chips. The little Utz pretzels, it's like 15 pretzels. Nobody's going to sit there and count out their chips or their pretzels. So if you just kind of handful in the bag, dump it into the cup of what you know is a typical serving size, it takes the thinking out of it, which makes, again, it more convenient. Another thing I've found as a mom is that I now put treats that are not the most healthy treats, because you can't completely cut everything out. That's just misery. But put those treats in places that are more difficult to reach. So, I put the granola bars, which sound like a healthy snack, but they're pretty high in sugar when you look at them. I kind of put them in the back of the pantry, or I don't put the things in the refrigerator that they want to go for. I don't like pudding, for example. That doesn't go in the front. It goes toward the back. And the cut up little veggie snacks in the containers are stacked in front of it. So the two teenage boys have to actually remove the containers of vegetables to get to the pudding. And doesn't sound like that would be a big deal, but it is a big deal. Teenage boys are lazy, usually, and they're going to go for what's convenient and right in the front of the fridge. So I've now kind of figured out, when I put my groceries away in my fridge, I stack all the healthy stuff in the front. The iced tea goes in the back, and the Propel waters go in the front. Things that are just, easier to grab it's tending to work better. I also have now started to keep a bowl, which again, I'll show you at the end, a little fruit thing directly on the table, or I move it onto the counter next to our pantry, so that at least when they're going to grab for a convenient, easy snack, there's like a healthy snack right next to it that makes them think that that's an alternative. And who doesn't love options? So if you keep that easy and available out on the counter, you're going to tend to go for it. Whereas if the fruits are tucked away in the crisper in the fridge, not so much. It's out of sight, it's out of mind. So again, keeping things close to the front of the fridge, and the whole concept of the eating and screen time is kind of similar to the drinking and driving. There's a difficulty in finding your limits. So sometimes it's easier to just say abstinence is better in that situation. So for the restaurant indulgers, kind of touched on this a little bit. Take what you ordered out, and one of the ladies at work does this all the time. She always is bringing in, not always, but when she goes out to eat, she'll bring in then the next day half of what she ordered out the night before. We're like, oh my gosh, it's so good. Where did you get that from? And it's literally half of the portion size of what she ordered for dinner the day before. So then she's eating that second half for lunch. You're saving yourself on a lunch expense of eating out, but yet you feel the convenience and the excitement of eating out for lunch, and you're cutting that portion in half. Restaurants are great now about putting the calorie content on menus, putting little hearts next to with heart healthy. And I have really tried to get my family to focus on looking at what the calorie content of that meal is. And do you think you've really only eaten 400 calories today, that 1,500 calorie meal is a good choice? Again, you don't have to completely cut out what you love, but if you're going to go for that 1,500 calorie meal, all right, I'm going to take half of that home for lunch tomorrow, and now I'm only eating 750. You're still getting to eat what you like. You're still getting to order it out. It's still convenient. It's a small step in cutting that back. Another thing to look at that I've tried to focus my family on is They love the fried pickles and they love the mozzarella sticks, and it's difficult to tell them not to do it. So, okay, that's fine, but my son loves a good Southern fried chicken sandwich. And so I've tried to encourage him, and he's changed on his own. It's been great that if we get the fried pickles or the mozzarella sticks for our appetizer, you're going to get the grilled chicken sandwich when you order your dinner. Again, another very small step, but it's a big step. And it's a small change that you still can kind of get what you want. You feel good about the fact that you're making a good choice, but you're still getting to indulge in the things that you like at the same time. So that would be just another, small tip for the restaurant eaters. Another thing is that we kind of find in society that, it's become a norm that when the waiter or waitress brings your meal, nobody starts to eat until everybody has their plate. That's just the common nice thing to do. But let's reverse it a little for the takeaway. You don't have to ask the waiter to not clear your plate from the table until everyone else is done. That's not rude. If you leave your plate in front of you until everyone else is done, you're going to be tempted to sit there and continue to eat, even though you're filled or satisfied. So it's okay when the waiter comes over to say, "Can I help? Does anyone need anything? Do you want to refill on your drink? Oh no, I'm done with this, but I'd be happy for you to bring me a to-go box." It's okay for your to-go box to sit in front of you while the other people sit and finish. That's not rude. And that's something that I find is easier for me to do, because if I don't, I sit and I eat the rest of those French fries on my plate that I really don't want. I'm just picking because it feels like it's something to do. So switching to the emotional eater, we at work have mint jars now on our desks. So we all have a jar that has peppermints in it. And so you could either, if you're starting to feel emotional, you can grab that Lifesaver peppermint and let that satisfy you for a little, or you can keep gum and chew gum as a snack instead of sitting and eating a piece of candy or chewing on whatever you have next to you. And paying attention to what is stressing you is really important. And I'm going to tie physical into this a little bit. I think that we need to start to tie our emotional things into what is our outlet for that emotional stress or that emotional anxiety. And it's good to get out in fresh air, and it's good to move your body. And this doesn't have to be anything that's going to a yoga class. You don't have to go to the gym at 6 a.m. and do spin. You don't have to do anything crazy. This is something as simple as, when I get home from work, I'm going to go take a walk around my neighborhood before I come in and start making dinner. It's on the weekend, just taking time to go reflect outside. We're stuck in the snow right now, but go outside and pull your weeds for 15, 20 minutes. You're getting your squats in, you're getting your fresh air, you're getting your sunshine, and do that before you dive into the pantry. So, using and recognizing those outlets, because we have been so kept at home, that it can be the small, simple things, those small little changes that make a big difference, and they delay that instant craving or gratitude that you're feeling. Oftentimes, putting that craving off for 10 or 15 minutes can make it go away. So it's okay to, recognize those triggers, and it's okay to talk about them, and we're all in that same boat together. I kind of wish there was more public service awareness to the fact that we are all in these situations, and there's no need to feel guilty or shamed about it, but let's all group together and make small changes that make this better for all of us. One of the other things for emotional eaters, like I talked about before, is that food is often recognized as a reward for children from their parents, or it's just a nostalgic tradition. Getting together for holidays, making cookies with grandma, or making your, favorite meal for your birthday that everybody comes over. Those are things that we kind of tie to those emotional connections. And again, that's okay, but it's also okay to have a family game night or have a family activity that brings everybody together. For my birthday, let's all go walk this certain park, or let's all go take a hike on this, mountain. And, it's not even mountain, but just little trails. It's okay to start switching those family get-together times toward small activities and not necessarily focused on eating birthday cake and ice cream and blowing out the candles. It's okay to switch it up and make it not about food. So drinks are something that I want to focus on too. This is a big thing with the kids, with being in sports, that sports with the Gatorades and the Powerades and those things, it becomes a mindless thing as well, that we're really encouraging, you know, hydration, which is a great thing. But I think we need to start making water an easier and more attractive option. And one of the things that Ruby Adams talked about in the Tri-Valley YMCA was that, you know, 90% of the situation with adults and their nutrition and their eating, it's more about what you're putting into your body. Only 10% of it is actually your exercise. With children, I would like to note that this is kind of a flipped ratio. With children, it is more about their physical activity and a little less about what they put in, which is why screen time has become such a hardship in getting kids back out to being active and fighting childhood obesity. But she had brought up that it's really easy to figure out what your exact water intake should be. And she gave a very simple formula, which I liked a lot. You take your weight, you divide it in half, and that's the amount of ounces that you should drink. So if you're a 100-pound person, your water requirement is 50 ounces a day. If you're a 200-pound male, your water requirement is 100 ounces a day. So focusing on limiting how much of the sugary drinks we're drinking. Again, it's okay to have your cup of coffee with your creamer. It's okay to indulge in the whatever soda you like every now and then, but really trying to pay attention to how much water we're bringing in is another important part in mindful intake. So I just want to give you a quick glimpse of how much sugar's in your drinks. As you can see here, these Monster Energy drinks have about 13.5 teaspoons of sugar in them. The vitamin waters have 8 teaspoons. So again, it has the word vitamin on it. It seems good. We're going to go toward it. But when you really look at it, it's got a lot of sugar. Mountain Dew, we all know, my 15-year-old loves Mountain Dew. So we have to really restrict him. But it has 19.25 teaspoons of sugar in it, not to mention the caffeine content. Snapple iced teas have 10.5. Your basic Gatorade, your 20-ounce Gatorade sport drink has 8.5 teaspoons. And looking at something like a juice, like the Nantucket Nectar Cranberry juice, has 17.5 teaspoons. So while somebody thinks they're doing a good thing by drinking a juice product, they're really, they're not necessarily. They could get their vitamin C out of a drink that doesn't have 17.5 teaspoons, which, as you can see, is almost as much as drinking a 20-ounce Mountain Dew. And people would never correlate sugar content of a Nectar Cranberry juice with a Mountain Dew. It's important, again, to just be mindful of those things. So they say in any presentation that you do, people only really retain the last 5 minutes of what you say. So I wanted to put my important part of this in the last 5 minutes with my Try It Tuesday takeaway tips. And one of them, I'm going to end my screen here for a second. And tell me if we're switching back. So tell me if you can see this, if not. But I wanted to share with you, so for the portion snack bowls, this is something very easy and simple to do. My kids love baseball. We used to go to baseball games, and they would always have to get the ice cream cup. And this is when they went to the Red Sox. They got these little Boston Red Sox. And here's the Phillies one. But these cups are cool because when I figured it out, if your kid wants to snack on pretzels, which is fine, these are the pretzel shells. And this says that a serving size is 15 pretzels. I am not going to count out 15 pretzels, nor will my children. But I counted out tonight 15 pretzels. And as you can see, it almost completely fills the bowl. So if you just have your kids say, look, buddy, it's fine to do this once a day, dump it into this cup, stop eating it out of the bag, you end the battle, and it's easy. It's easy and it's convenient. Same thing with the Tostitos. My youngest son loves his nacho cheese and chips. Not gonna keep him from doing it, but serving size on this is 13 chips. I counted out 13 chips, and as you can see, it completely fills this little snack bowl. So these are convenient for them. I also like the fact that when I come home from work, I see the dirty cup in the sink, and I know that they actually use the thing. So this is kind of an also nice little regulator for when mom's not home. What is everybody really eating? And they're using it, which is nice. So convenience. I talked about convenience. You have to keep things readily available and convenient. let's just be honest, it's not always convenient or easy to keep fresh produce available. And it's, besides the cost can be another thing, but I found a couple little tips that I'd like to share with you. So my oldest son loves to dip in anything with a dip he's excited about. So I will go to the grocery store now, and this has been a tip that has worked for 2 months now. And if you told me this 2 months ago, I would have laughed in your face, but I'm here to tell you it's true. I go and I cut up like carrots, celery, whatever, cucumbers, whatever my little thing is, and I stick it in containers right in front of the fridge. And then I stack fun little dips on top of it. Again, things I don't have to prepare, but things like this pub cheese. When you look at this pub cheese, you would think, oh, cheese, not that great. But when you look at the contents of it, it's actually a good dipping alternative. It's got protein. It's not that high in calories. It's like a whipped cheese, and it gives them something to dip in. He loves this veggie cream cheese. I used to put cream cheese on my celery when I was little and eat it instead of peanut butter. Again, it's another great alternative. It's only 90 calories for 2 tablespoons, and it gives them the flavor, and he loves dipping. Peanut butter is always a good one. For some adults, they would say, well, it's high in fat, it's high in calories, but for kids, it has good protein, and kids need good, healthy fats. And this is a good, healthy fat. So you can do, again, my son dips the celery in this. The other thing they love to dip is the apples. I'm not home to cut up their apples or peel them or do anything with that. And we all know I can't do it ahead of time because they're going to turn brown and they're not going to be attractive to eat. So I have found, and these are super cheap. It's a whole container. It's like $3. You get these little individual apple packs. They're already sliced. It's already a portion size. They grab it out of the fridge, open it up, and they feel like they're snacking. And when it's gone, it's gone. So this is another nice, cheap, healthy alternative that you can keep readily in the front of your fridge to dip things in. So to touch base on the water concept, we were not big water drinkers in this house. None of us were, even though we do a lot of sports and like to go out and hike. My family is very big on, they go for the sugar stuff. So I just had to stop making it available in our house. And a lot of the alternatives that I found, my son loves. So my youngest son loves root beer. He's very into soda. Weaning him off of that, I found that it was kind of more the attraction of having a bottle or having a can that he could open. He didn't like water out of a glass. So I found these nice alternatives, these little flavored sparkling water alternatives that give them fizz and they give them the flavor. This is just one brand that he's really excited about lately. It's a blueberry pomegranate one. He loves the LaCroix. That's another one that he's into. You can see just chugged half of it before I kicked them out of the house to do this little presentation. My older son is very into sports and weightlifting, and so I got turned on to the Propel, and the alternative for the vitamin water is the Vitamin Water Zero. Some people are really focused on these 0-calorie drinks having the artificial sweeteners in them. That's what turns them off, and you should be aware. But these zero sugar vitamin waters are not sweetened with the artificial flavor. So this is a nice alternative. Now I will tell you, being a mom of teenage boys, I come home and these great, awesome alternatives are stacked up in their bedrooms. So we now have 10 to 15 bottles a day, day and a half in the bedrooms. So this is annoying to me. So I, just to give you another alternative, have found these little water flavoring packets that I like. Gatorade Zero is not, it does have artificial, it says it's mostly flavored with natural flavors, but there is a little bit of artificial flavoring in here, if we're honest. But one of these packets does a 20-ounce bottle. So he is in love with his shaker bottles that are about 20 ounces, the things that they all take to the gym and chug out of. So I now sit this right next to his little shaker bottle. I have stopped buying the Gatorade 20-ounce bottles. And surprisingly, he makes these and drinks them. I think this is literally his 3rd box this week from this weekend. So he's drinking the water, he's getting it in, it's flavored. I'm not dealing with, polluting the planet with all of these bottles, and I'm not cleaning them up out of his room. So that's another nice alternative. And Oh, this is kind of funny. Here's the fruit basket on the table. As you can see, bananas were not a hit this week. They're all brown. But anyway, so this is a little thing that I've liked that I shared with BJ and Alyssa earlier, was that these are these little water bottles that we all got at work. I'm not sure if you can really see or not, but it kind of gives you the time of day with little inspirational, keep chugging, don't give up, you're almost there. The idea is that I, for my weight, should drink this. Ooh, 7 o'clock. I'm not at goal, people. I need to drink. But anyway, this kind of gives you an idea, a very visual idea of where you're at throughout the day with your water. And you don't have to buy a $15 water bottle that motivates you for this. One of the things I tell my patients at work when I'm dealing with hydration is that if you know you should be drinking 4 to 5 bottles of water a day, get those spring water bottles and line them up on your kitchen windowsill or next to your sink or wherever is convenient for you. And if you're getting to like 1 o'clock in the afternoon and only one bottle is gone, you know you got to kick it into gear and start drinking more water. I think we need visual reminders. When I say to a patient, "Are you drinking enough?" And yeah, I'm drinking enough. And their wife's shaking their head. No, he's not. We actually need those physical reminders. So one of the things, if you don't have one of these fancy timed water bottles, is just know my water bottle is 32 ounces. And if I haven't filled it up at all yet today, I need to kick it in and fill it up. I need to fill this up at least once a day. That's not a hard goal, fill this up once a day. So these are just some of the easy tips that I wanted to leave you with that can be very small changes in maybe what you're purchasing at the store or how you're packing your fridge, the boundaries that you're setting with your kids on how we eat and how we think about what we eat. So with that said, I don't know if anybody has questions. I know we're trying to keep this to about this time limit. Anybody have anything?
I don't know if you saw, Sherri, but those baseball cups, we use them all the time in my house. I typed it in the chat. So I thought it was so funny that you decided to use it in your house too, because they are seriously perfect.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments for Sherri?
Great job. Very informative.
Thank you. I hope it helps. Even if it's one small tip that you take away, it's something small and productive, and taking, accountability and moving forward. I don't think we can do everything all at once. I didn't arrive at all of this all at once. This was an 8-month process of coming home daily from work and being frustrated by one thing or another. But I've shared some of these tips with my friends, and my feedback that I'm getting from them is like, wow, that was so easy. That's really working for me. And so I just, I think they're easy, they're convenient, and it's, small things that we can all do and feel good about the fact that we're taking some sort of control.
I had to laugh a little bit because I have some of the sitting and eating in front of me. My wife yells at me all the time if there's like French fries. I just kind of laugh because that's what I do. I graze at it. And you don't even think about it. So those are some great points that I kind of fell in a lot of those categories, but you don't realize it, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. If there are no other questions, Sherri, thank you so much. This is great. I'm sure a lot of folks are going to be able to tune in after the fact if they couldn't make it tonight, or if anyone on today wants to do a rewatch, this will be available to view. But have a wonderful rest of your week and take care, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.